Hi everyone, thank you very much for coming. My name is Matt and I'm one of the festival team here at Moving Parts Arts, and this is the Q&A Meet the Puppeteers series. So we've got several of these events that happen kind of early evening. I kind of talk about it as the puppetry hardcore people often come along, but it's really your chance to ask questions as well. So I would really love if you could be thinking about questions as we're talking, because delighted should say that we have Liz and Dan here today from Lempen Puppet Theatre. So please let's welcome Liz and Dan.
Thank you.
So before we sort of open the floor for questions, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. And I am very interested in your origin story, but I think I'd like to open it up beyond that to kind of, you've been in puppetry for quite some time now, and I'd love to get a sense of that difference from when you began to where you are now, and a sense of that journey over 30 plus years. So yeah, I don't know if you'd like to start, Liz.
Okay, it's been a long journey, although it seems like yesterday when we began it. So I think when we started out, we met at a puppetry summer school event, a fortnight course, and we gelled, and then we started working together. And we felt very innocent. We felt very like, ooh, are we good enough? And so we both came from villages, so we stuck to very rural, sort of tiny schools, tiny, very far away. And also we wanted to travel. We wanted to have fun and see places. So we used to go to the wilds of Scotland. We slept in the van. We went to the Isles of Scilly, we went to the Outer Hebrides, we went to Shetland and Orkney several times, and we went to the tiniest, most beautiful little spots all over the UK, little schools in Cumbria, and we did that for about 10 years, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we had no funding, we just made shows. When Daniel first was thinking about being a puppeteer, he asked somebody, how do you become a puppeteer? There were no courses, really, apart from Charleville was just starting.
Just the first year of Charleville was possible, and I thought, no, that's in French, I don't want to do that. Although I have to say I'm Swiss, so we're a sort of two nations company. So I came from Switzerland 36 years or something like that ago. But yeah, I didn't want to go to Charleville. So yes, that advice, how do you become a puppeteer? Just go and do it. Just make puppets, make shows, go out, go and see shows, go and watch everything that you can, do courses and everything. Just be interested in that art form and see where it takes you.
So jumping forward, sort of 20, 30 years, the last 25 years we've been working with directors, bringing directors in. We do a lot of festival work, we do a lot of international work, and we found ourselves with a director. He was very well trained, a German director who'd cut his teeth in Stuttgart. He was one of the first tutors there, and he would sort of say things to us about theatre stuff, and he'd go, you know what that is, don't you? And we go, no. But you know what, because we've never been trained, we just learnt by doing it, school of life. And I feel that that's been a great strength, actually. So then after about 10 years, somebody from the Arts Council came to see what we were doing, and they said, you should be asking us for money. So we started doing project grant stuff. So we started in 1987, both of us. Then joined forces in 1988, roughly that. Got married in 1991 because he was refused entry. So that's another story. Yeah. And so we could say we've been doing this professionally for 37 years.
Yeah, so a long time.
And we've never had other jobs during that time.
No. So we've solely lived from puppetry. We've got a family. We've got two grown-up sons, And we've managed that kind of touring as a family, touring, career, family, everything in one thing. On top of that, we founded I don't know if that is another question later.
Well, yeah.
I'm
I
remembering
was-
so I'll just leave, I'll
This-
leave that for later. So yeah, we've done a lot of different things, and and managed to have that kind of work balance and family and everything.
There is so much in what you're saying there. I wonder, do you think it's possible now for younger puppeteers to make their living kind of solely from puppetry? Do you think if you pictured yourself now in...
I think expectations is a big thing. I mean, if you want to make big money, then probably don't. Some very few ones maybe, hit the sort of absolute top, but there's a very few. And but
I
we've
think
made a
it-
comfortable living.
Yes, but
Yeah.
you've got to cut your teeth and you've got to graft, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think it is possible, but it's not easy. And I don't know if we're really qualified to answer that question now, because we're not in that position now,
Yeah.
and we're not trying that now.
Yeah. Yes. No, totally.
But I do feel that the way we could do it, which is not so easy now, we had our first lights were catering peach tins sprayed black, stuck in a bucket of concrete on a pole, and you couldn't get away with that now. But
Risk assessment,
yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't exist at
No.
all. So
But in another way, you can just make stuff. You can. And going for kind of Arts Council funding right at the beginning and sort of having great expectations, you've just got to apply yourself and make things and be prepared to scrap it and make it again. And I think if you graft hard enough, it should be possible.
I think there's a lot in starting small, like
Yeah.
you say, and
Yeah.
building up to the big show where it's natural. For people who don't know your work, how would you characterise that work? How would you describe it, just for people who don't?
It's interesting because some colleagues of ours have said your stuff is not very British. Whether or not there's a flavour of something European in there,
Swiss
could be
as well. Yeah.
But I feel so. I did a fine art degree in sculpture, and there was a thing. When you're sort of looking at how to make your degree show, there's like a house style that develops. And everyone's going, oh, well, what was it like last year? Oh, yes, that was what a degree show looked like. So whereas because we were doing our own thing, ploughing our own field, we've just kind of made our own thing. So we would call ourselves storymongers, specialised in original stories. We've got inspired by, traditional and mythological and so on, but we've kind of pulled threads and amalgamated and created and crafted and dramatised our own
yeah, a lot of
story
our
threads.
shows always had text.
Yeah.
There was lots of text. So the first sort of 30 years was really text based, and then we've discovered that you can do shows without text, which is great as well. And so we've now, the last 3 shows have been totally visual.
But I would say that our stuff has got layers. There's something we would call ourselves family theatre. So there's something that's visual enough to keep a 5-year-old for 45 or 50 minutes, but the adults will see other symbolic threads in there or other sort of verbal jokes or whatever. So we kind of like to think there's layers for people to reach for. It's been a revelation, though, since we were doing the visual stuff, how much more open that is for people.
Right.
And more accessible, that people can interpret from where they are at in their head, and they come to it in different places, and it feels that has opened a whole new door for us because it feels so much more accessible.
Yes.
As well as other practical side effects that we're talking about. Being easier to tour internationally, for example. You don't have to translate it and rehearse it.
And that family, do you think part of the success as well is that family framing? Is that a way?
Well, I think family is, that's obviously where the market is, where you can sell puppet theatre the most. We would love to do shows for adults, but at the end of the day, there's the thing that you want to do, and there's the thing that also you have to do to survive. So you may have this incredible idea of a show, but if you can sell it 5 times a year, then you've got to say, is that really... Yeah, but once you've got a big portfolio, you've got lots of shows, and you can then go back, oh, we'll just have this one as well in our repertoire, that's fine. But if you start off maybe and you've got 2 programs, you've got to sell them. I mean, I don't know, there was a time we did 200 shows in a year. As we got older, a bit less. But yeah, there was these sort of targets that we needed to make a living.
Yeah.
So having a show that audiences would... We've not gone down the sort of very classic bums on seat shows like another Cinderella version, which I'm not saying Cinderella is not great. I've seen great versions of Cinderella, but we always wanted to make our own work and own stories, own ideas.
And just lately, this is a trend that's not so fashionable for bookers they're not so interested in a title that is not known. You know, you've got like Little Angel do all these picture book stuff, and they know that people will go, oh, my kid loves that, and we're going to go and see that.
I mean, one of our older shows was called When I Met Scark. You know, and that sold 350 times, you know. And not now, it's kind of like, whoa, When I Met Scark, that's kind of like out there.
Well, it's interesting you say, because of course alongside your significant work as artist, you also founded Skipton Puppet Festival. So yes, I would, and you've kind of stepped away from that now and concentrated on your own work, but I would love to hear kind of what that journey was for you, how that maybe shaped your work as well.
Okay, so when we started that was the first one we took on was 2005. And there was a little mini festival before that,
and we were part
of it.
But so you took that on.
Yes,
it was an existing
it was a local council thing, and they were cutting their £2,000 funding. And the arts development officer at the time said, "Oh, I've saved this £500 pot for somebody, one of you, to apply to the Arts Council, and you are going to be much better placed to make this festival grow."
And we had people like Tony Liddington on the board with us, and he said, well, we go big. We have to ask for a lot of money. And they said, maybe 4,000 or 5,000. No, we've just got 20,000. And that's what we did. So because we said, we're going to go big, we're going to make this an international festival. We booked 12 shows.
Wait a minute. So at the time, we were doing a lot of international work, and we had family in Skipton, and the nearest venue was a 50-minute drive away if you had a car. So we were like, it was identified by the Arts Council as a low area of arts opportunity. So we were like, right, we're going to do this because we know there's families here that need that. And we'd like to have a festival like we visit in Germany or France or wherever. And we want to bring our colleagues in and make it for the profession, because we never get to meet puppeteers in the UK. So that was one of our biggest motivations, was to make a festival that we would want to visit and that we had, like we'd experienced, where you could go and see all the shows for free and you could meet up with your colleagues and get to know them, chat, eat, drink, and form ideas together. And so that was a big motivation. Anyway, Skipton grew and grew, as you probably know, and became arguably the biggest. No longer. So anyway, we did that for 9 festivals, one smaller one, COVID times, and we thought we'd manage 10, but Daniel was always like, we've got to stop this, it's so much work and it's so much stress. And
well, we used to organise a festival, and then after the festival for 6 months we had no work. We forgot to get work for us. So actually financially
busy.
It was a nonsense, because the festival actually didn't pay that much. And then there was this drop, and we were half dead, and then kind of like no work.
And I started seeing really beautiful puppets and really interesting shows and thinking, why haven't I made that show? And you know, we were getting slower and slower at producing our own work. And then we kind of, I've got a big birthday next year, and we were like starting to think, how much time have we got that we can make? How good are we going to be for how much time? And we actually need to concentrate on that.
I think it's an important lesson of sector development, which is really important.
It is.
But balancing that with artistic.
Well, somebody once said to me, you've got to choose, Liz. You're either a facilitator or you're a doer. And it's very difficult to balance both.
But you can maybe do separate
for a
it, do
while.
that for a
Yeah.
bit, that for a
You
bit,
You
I
think,
don't know.
you think.
Yeah. But you say, how has it shaped our work? Obviously,
Yeah.
having had 150 or more companies coming through our festival
Yeah.
over the time, and with a lot of international companies from all over the place, it obviously inspires. It's such. It's amazing to see how other countries, how puppetry is there, and then we share these ideas, and obviously that has shaped our work by seeing a lot of things, and obviously on a personal level we've made so many friends all over the world, really.
In fact, we've got a plan. So when we're not able to perform anymore and we're just
Yeah.
decrepit and people go, oh, they should really stop, you know. We're going to just still be able to travel because the last van that we have, we'll be able to convert it into a camper. And then we can just go, you know,
the
and just
dream.
like cheap to most festivals and go and see the friends
Yeah.
and just travel.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
And we'll have a little thing out the back of the van. Hello. Little puppets.
Okay, really want to open up the floor
Yeah,
to
yeah.
questions because I'm not hogging you, but important what you're saying there, I think, that what we create isn't in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And there is that balance, of course,
Yes.
individual artistry, but also it's in dialogue with this wider body of work, which I think is the great thing about puppet festivals. Of course, I would say that, but
Of course.
would anyone like to ask a question to Danny or Liz, or both Danny and Liz?
We could talk at the same time.
There's two.
Yeah.
We were lucky to come and see those
Yes.
earlier in the
Yeah.
museum. They were great. I don't have a specific question. I just want to hear how they came about and what the
Well,
what
they-
the
Great
idea
question.
They
was.
came about. We always did our sort of 50-minute shows, our 1-hour shows, and then we went to a festival in Germany. And a friend of ours said, "I'm doing this little thing called knee theatre because it's like a touching knees and a little box in between or something." And he said, "Oh, could you do something for that festival? Then I'll put you in my festival."
He's called it Theatre for Einzelgänger,
Yeah.
which is theatre for one
Theatre for
person.
one.
Yeah. And so we went, well, we want to come to a festival. Yeah.
So we did two. We did Dance Baby, which we did a pregnant man, and we did Riverbed Dive, which was a big helmet, and it was an inside-out shadow kind of a theatre. And
We have to say that because that's funny. To make the diving helmet, in fact, we knew we were going to make it out of a bucket, but it's really important the distance that people can focus. So Daniel went into B&M Bargains or wherever it was at the time, I can't remember, trying buckets on his head. And then at Dan's Baby, we had to go and find you a maternity dress. But all, you know, what was it, Mamas and I can't remember the name of the company. They all had communal changing rooms. And I was asking, do you have somewhere that he could try this on? And she, how many months are you? No, it's not for me, it's for my husband. It was like, so we had a lot of fun.
So we did that. We thought that would be just a one-off, and that was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
And then we've done some extra ones, so we've got 5 little pieces. But what we've then also done, we've done courses. We at the Horse and Bamboo.
A residency,
A
yeah.
residency. We did a residency in Germany, and they got quite a lot of people involved in this Theatre for One, which we've called Theatre for One. There's another movement which is literally the same, but it started in South America called Lempen Theatre, which is basically the same principle, a one-to-one experience of about 3-4 minutes.
So Lempen in South America is a kind of soft social political movement almost within this art form. It was started by these 2 women who were brave enough to go and do a live birth of a puppet, obviously, on the street. And this was just something, you know, showing their femininity and exposing their vulnerability and just doing this little silent puppetry performance. It just started a thing. And now you've got all over South America, you have this Lempen movement, and it's about connecting with people, you know, personal connection on the street.
But they are
so
nice because you have that one-to-one. And I think for the audience, it's for some it's quite close. It's kind of but it is a nice way of, because you do a show, you've got 150 people in the audience. You don't connect with everybody the same way as you do with a one-to-one.
And
having
you
a
know, in fact,
conversation or-
half your audience will leave and you have no idea what they thought of the show. Whereas with the one-to-one, you meet every single member of the audience and you see all the reactions, which is it's a very honest position to be in, you know, you can't
But they're
mistake.
fun. Some festivals know us for these, and they just think, that's all we do. And for us, it's a kind of side thing. But what is nice, if you've got something little, if you go to a festival and you've got a main show, quite often a festival asks, "Oh, have you got something else?"
Yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
is extra. A company can bring that, and it's a cheap. It's an add-on. It's you can say, "Oh, we'll just do that for a little bit more."
What's quite unique about it, because you can have a street sort of variety of things with giant walkabouts and a Punch and Judy or a booth show or different interactions, but Theatre for One is just unique in its own way, and you've just got this little crowd of people that start talking to each other, and you've got a lot of dwelling time, and you can go in a cafe, you can be in a museum, you can be in a library because it's silent nearly.
You've been on
So-
a train.
I have done it on a train, yeah. And in fact, I think the conductor sat down and did it. And he went, "I might have to stop because if we reach the station." Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. But there's a theme, it kind of happened by accident, right?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
wanted to go to, and then
Yeah.
it becomes this thing, like Skipton. I think there's a great deal in that, you know.
Following the accidents.
Following the
Yes.
accidents, yeah.
Happy accidents,
Yeah.
serendipity.
You had a question.
Talking of happy accidents and
Yeah.
how things come about,
Yeah.
what is the proudest thing that you've ever sort of created, or what's the sort of best idea that's sort of most cherished, and how did it come about?
30 plus years, we've had a lot of little things. We had a wonderful time working with the Marine Conservation Society.
Oh, yeah.
They saw a show that we did called The Journey of Turtle, and they had big turtle projects in the Caribbean, and they thought they wanted to connect with puppetry. So we then...
Well, we made it.
first-
First, there was a commission. So I did a show called The Fisherman and the Pearl, which brought in a lot of the messages and the sort of things that they wanted us to focus
For
on.
marine conservation
And
areas.
we did that around schools very extensively around the UK. And then they took us out to the Caribbean and we wrote a new story for them because they were changing the laws. So they had been working with local fishermen, tagging turtles and researching and bringing that knowledge back to create new initiatives about turtle fishery, because they've eaten turtles for 2,000 years out there. And it's not a place that you can really police, you know. It's not up to white men to go in and say, you can't do that anymore, because they carry on doing it. So it's about them making decisions about the way they do that is not going to affect the turtle
So we built
populations.
the shows with secondary school age students, and then they performed it for primary school.
So we
children.
were there for 3 weeks, island hopping and doing these various projects. We built like how many hundred cardboard turtles out of cereal packets with primary schools, and then those same primary schools came and watched the show that we'd created of this new story with
So yeah,
the...
that was a sort of pride, you know, actually doing something really good.
We worked
and
so hard, but it
and
was so rewarding.
It was
It's
wonderful.
just amazing. And the last day, there was this, they said they would take us to this coral gardens to snorkel. I'd never snorkeled before, so we had to practice a bit. And we went round coral gardens hoping to see turtles, and I'd never seen a turtle apart from in the, aquarium thing. And there was a moment when I got a bit lost, and Danny and what's called Amy had snorkeled on, and then they spotted these things, and they made a sign, and there were 2 giant green turtles, and I was just snorkeling right above them, and they were feeding on the seagrass. And then they just came up at that moment, and they came almost either side of me, and they just go sip, sip of the air, and they go down again. And that was a proud moment, because that was for me.
Yeah.
That was the gift, yeah.
It was
Yeah.
a theatre for one through through nature.
I still feel breathless thinking
No.
about it. But yeah,
but there will be many stories. and
many
we could
stories, yeah.
Tell you all evening. The things that have happened, and obviously that.
We created
Right.
2 live puppets, and they're now 28 and 23. We're quite proud of them too. Yeah, and yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned some short courses. Are there any like practitioners or companies that you did like short courses or workshops with, and were like everyone should go and learn from them?
Gosh, over the years there's been quite a few. Now probably some of these people don't do it anymore.
That's fair.
That's fair. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I there's loads that I would still want to do, but the problem is, you know, we're always really busy when just when these things are happening.
Yeah.
Well, you just go, oh, I'd love to do that. Oh no, I can't. I'm committed. I'm doing something elsewhere. Can you think of specific?
Well, of course, there used to be Neville Tranter that used to run a lot of courses, and he was a big force, you know, some time ago, but he's now stopped. And,
I was to do a course with a Philippe Gentil company, which was brilliant, and Shadow Company, Italian, Giacovita. They were very good. I don't know what they're doing now, but they were very good at Fabrizio, I think he was called. He's the main guy, and he was brilliant at shadow courses.
You had Tam Tam at Skipton
Oh, yes,
a little
yes.
while back,
Yes.
didn't you?
Yes.
Objects.
Object
yes,
did
of
it.
course, they
Yeah.
run great
They run
courses.
great courses,
But again,
yeah.
they're sort of...
Yeah.
They're just retiring, really.
Yeah.
Yes. You could go to their workshop. They have a brilliant workshop and ask them to do a course just for you. And
might
they
be
probably would
honest,
have time.
They would love it. They would love it.
Yeah.
And if you pay them, absolutely. You know, if you say, I've got some
Yeah.
leftover money and I'd like you to teach me, I'm sure they would.
They've got, yeah.
They've got...
But they're very specialist in object theatre, but they are brilliant, really brilliant. Yeah.
We are out of time,
Oh.
but a quick plug, because you've got Cardboard Carnival, but it might have
Tomorrow.
sold out.
You don't know. You don't know.
Cardboard Carnival tomorrow. Do check it out because it's beautiful. Yeah, tell us a little bit about.
Okay, Cardboard Carnival, Daniel came up with an idea. Let's do Carnival of the Animals, you know, Saint-Saëns music. Okay. And then I said, let's do it out of cardboard. And it partly came out of doing this marine conservation work because the cardboard was the only material we could use then. So we discovered it. So paper and cardboard. So the idea behind it, which also came out of, you know, our work and realising that children don't play enough. You know, all the toys are just press this button, listen to this noise, watch this screen, and just discovering material. So I wanted to inspire to play. And so Cardboard Carnival is a bit clowny. It's me and my workshop creating a new animal and inventing a new animal out of paper and cardboard, just ripping and trying eyeballs, using Camille Saint-Saëns' music as inspiration and stealing body parts from the best of his animals and then trying to assemble it all. So it's a bit, it's not so much of a story, it's a carnival. It's a carnival. And it's very fun. It's 45 minutes. It's completely wordless, apart from one word. But that can be nonsense. So make a lot of noise. And the music is absolutely fabulous. It's a Leonard Bernstein recording from the 60s, live recording of a youth orchestra. So it's an absolutely fabulous piece. So if anybody's got time, come and see it. And that's been a very, very successful show for us.
We just said in 4 days' time, we're performing it in France at the festival.
Oh.
And that'll be the 10th different country that show
So-
has gone to.
So we should also say that we did work together, performing together, and then we had the children. So then we did solo work.
So for 20 years.
So for 20 years we did solo work.
We built the shows together with the musician and the director and the two of us.
And then we'd go off on tour, and then that one off on tour, balanced up family life. And Cardboard Carnival was my last solo, and then we built a show again together, Flotsam and Jetsam. So now we're building shows together again. So that's a bit of a part of the journey too.
But you said you also feel very attached to Cardboard Carnival as well, Danny.
Well, of course, because you know it's Liz on stage and everything, but you know no show would be without the lighting and the tech, and obviously a lot of my ideas, you know, were taken on board during the birth of that show. So yeah.
Please join me in thanking Liz and Danny. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.